How's it going, everyone? My name is True Wonder Dog, and today we're going to talk about how to make Kotal Kahn overpowered in Mortal Kombat 11. Now, it's not going to be easy because this character is considered to be one of the worst in the entire game. However, even so, many of you did request this character down in the comments section, so without any further ado, let's get to it. I want to start off by talking about what makes Kotal Kahn bad in many players' eyes. So first up, here's his best mid. 22 frames on startup, that is ridiculous. Just for some comparison, some of the fastest mids are 9 frames. Now this move does have really good range, so that may seem to justify at first why it's so slow, but the thing is, it's so slow on startup, if the opponent does whiff a normal, it might not even be able to punish in time before they block, because that's 22 frames, that's really long. So while it does have fantastic range, it certainly should be a bit faster, maybe 17 or 19, something around that area, because it's a bit ridiculous. However, for anyone who's not aware, Kotal Kahn does have one way to force the opponent to block up close. His mids are all way too slow, but if you land it down 1, this forward 1-2 is actually blocked even if the opponent is ducking. So while it should go right over their head, they actually are forced to block it if you land the down 1. Now the problem is they could just neutral duck it, so you land the down 1, they stay crouching and then uppercut. That could happen if you go for this, it's very risky, but just know if they're more defensive and you land this down 1, they will block this if they crouch block, so that's pretty nice. And at first a lot of players think, well, he has this, it's a low attack and it's 17 frames, so it's a lot faster, and it's got pretty decent range. Here's the problem, you cannot hit confirm this thing. You can't wait to see if it lands, so you either commit to this string, which is safe to be fair, it's -3, or you just go for the uppercut and get the combo started, but it's not safe on block. That uppercut is very punishable, so you can't just do it raw, it has to be a whiff punish. So his mids still aren't very good for starting off combos. The only mid he has as a hit confirm is right here, and it's very, very slow on startup, so it's not a good idea. It's also unsafe if you finish the whole string, but even so, a lot of players will every now and then just because the opponent's not expecting it. And next up, we have this move. It's not too slow on startup, 17 frames. Now it's a high attack, so they could duck under it. Even so, it's an okay whiff punish, and best of all, it's a combo starter, a meterless combo starter, which is great because in some builds, Kotal Kahn does not have anything to extend his combos. No special moves, no nothing, so all he has is this string. Here's the problem. These first 2 hits are unsafe on block. So at the very least, it's punishable, and even if you go for the whole thing, they can still interrupt it. So this string might be one of his best in theory, but it's just not worth the risk because it's unsafe either way. It's a very bad idea for anything aside from a whiff punish. And that's Kotal Kahn's biggest problem. Everything he does relies on whiff punishing, but even so, it's ridiculously slow, so it's very hard to optimize on those few chances you do get a whiff punish. And that's honestly just scratching the surface on why Kotal Kahn is considered bad. We could be here all day talking about all the things he's lacking, and in fact, if you're interested, I do have a full video focused on just that. But this video is about how to make this character overpowered, so next up, let's talk about his best special moves and how to improve them. Alright, so right here, I think we have the recipe for a very strong Kotal Kahn. So first up, we have the damage totem. This could honestly be a really good tool, along with his sunbeam honestly. Neither one is very bad. Here's the problem, look how long it takes me to block when I summon it. Whoa, I'm left open for a long time, aren't I? But the sunbeam. Oh my god, even worse. They have time for a dash and jump in combo. That is not good. Meanwhile, in Mortal Kombat X, you could actually do an attack and then cancel into it, and then attack again, and the opponent basically had to block. Some of the more brave players in top 8 would even go for it on block, because the opponent just didn't expect it, and they would still have time to block before the opponent could punish them. However, unfortunately, it's nothing like that in this game. It's slower, and honestly, it's far too slow. I understand the developers might have thought it was too good in Mortal Kombat X, but this is just too much. It's to the extreme. It's way too slow in both regards. I think both of these tools could be really good. The problem is they take way too long to start up. This thing is also really cool in concept. Follows the opponent and does damage to him. It can be really good when they're already low on health. Problem is, my god, look at the startup on this thing. Look how long it took me to block. That is ridiculous. So if they just decrease the startup on the totems and even the sunbeam, he'd be a lot better right away. But as of right now, they're almost too slow to be useful. The only way to summon them in my experience is to just drop your combo and do it. But then you're at minus and the opponent's going to go for pressure and you won't even have time to capitalize, and once again, a lot of your stuff is either a high attack or extremely slow, so the odds of you actually opening up the opponent while having this totem out is extremely slim, and that's why no Kotal Kahn players really go for it, including pro players. So that's step 2 in my opinion. Step number 1 was make him faster, but step 2 is make these summons faster as well. The sun, the totems, all of it. Even the sunbeam that he summons over the opponent, make that faster too. That one can actually be useful because you knock the opponent away, and it's pretty much guaranteed when they're knocked down. It does pretty good damage when it first comes out, but it only works to chip out the opponent when they're almost dead. So make all of this faster, that's step 2. Step 1, make his attack strings faster, especially his mids. Step number 2, make the totem and sunbeam much faster as well. And next up we have the Kahn cut, Kotal Kahn's go-to combo extender. However, despite that fact, it's not on by default. You have to equip it separately, and that's a bit ridiculous because by default he has this sword attack that just saws the opponent and doesn't even do that much damage even when you amplify it. I think this should be his default move, and the sword attack should be something you add on afterwards. Because this move is honestly too essential to how this character plays, and it's already a very balanced move. It's unsafe on block, but also great for extending combos. It's a balanced attack, and he honestly needs it. In fact, I think the reason a lot of players don't use Variation 2 is simply because it doesn't have this move, because without it, all you really have is this from mid-screen, and in the corner you can do stuff like this, but it's a high attack once again, so uppercut city. So this move definitely should be there by default to make this character a bit more viable, and if you want him overpowered, then certainly make this move default. That's step number 3. And last but not least, we have the command grab that I cannot pronounce. Now honestly, this command grab isn't that bad. It catches the opponent if they're crouching, it's very fast, it does decent damage and gives you a damage buff as well. However, I bet you saw the problem right then and there. This command grab switches sides, and I'm honestly not sure why. I don't understand the thought process behind that. Chances are the opponent's cornered and you want to keep them there, but you can't if you want to end your combo with this move. You either give up the corner or take the damage buff. And I've seen Kotal Kahn players do either or depending on the situation, but you shouldn't have to choose. I think they should stay in the front by default, and then give the player the option to switch sides on the off chance that they themselves are in the corner. That makes a lot more sense to me, and they did a very similar thing to Jason in Mortal Kombat X, so it's certainly doable. So that's step number 4 for Kotal Kahn. Make this command grab not switch sides by default, and if you want a little bit extra, give the player the option to switch sides if they so choose. And next up, I also wanted to talk about these two special moves. So first up, we have the Panther attack. So there's an air version and a ground version. I think the two should be combined into a single variation ability because they're honestly very similar, and neither one is a ridiculously overpowered move. It's not even a projectile, it's just like a regular dive attack, and certain characters like Kano have that by default. So I don't see why Kotal Kahn shouldn't be able to combine them both into a single move. And once again, the goal of this video is to make him overpowered, so if that sounds like a bit much, I understand, but that is the name of the game for this current video. But in my honest opinion, it's not that absurd to combine the two since they're very similar, and while they are practical, they're not absurd, so combining them doesn't seem like that big of a deal to me. And next up we have the disc toss. It's honestly not a terrible projectile, does decent damage, hits high, but on counter hit it actually causes a crushing blow, which makes it pretty darn good at least once a match. But then if you amplify it, right here is where the money's at. Make this default because this is just fantastic. Or at the very least, give it to him in one of his tournament variations because it's such a cool freaking move. So if you have 3 totems stacked and then you land this bad boy, it does decent damage for a crushing blow and leaves the opponent staggered for so long you can dash in, jump in, and get a full combo. It makes Kotal Kahn very scary from a distance while also making his totems that much more useful in an actual match. It gives them far more purpose than just adding damage or reducing chip damage. You can also stack them with the main goal of making your character very scary from a distance, because when you land this thing, boom, crushing blow, jump in combo, lots of damage. And if you want my honest opinion, the disc toss when normally amplified is kind of terrible, for lack of a less saucy word. It's not a really good reason to spend some bar, but this actually is. Not only is it an entire beam that hits mid, so it could catch jumpers a lot of the time trying to avoid this projectile, but if you get that crushing blow, it's really good. So I don't see any reason to not give him this for a tournament variation. Hopefully after Evo, every character gets a 3rd tournament build for both competitive and online ranked matches, because that would be really awesome, and if that does happen, please give him this amplified version for one of them. It's honestly a really good move. Alright, and there you have it everyone, all my tips for how to make Kotal Kahn overpowered in Mortal Kombat 11. Once again, I'm by no means a Kotal Kahn main, so if you have any better ideas, please tell me down below in the comments. And then while you're down there, go ahead and leave a like if you enjoyed the video. It really does help my channel out a ton. And finally, why not keep that combo going by subscribing and ringing that bell? That way you never miss a future video. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.